Hi, I'm going to take you through how to set up your Mac computer to work offline. So if you have network issues with CS50, this can be your backup alternative. So to work on your Mac, you first need to start by getting the Xcode application. If you go to the Apple App Store and you type in Xcode, you'll find this Xcode developer option. My network's not brilliant either. So this is the one that you're after. It is free if you've got a Mac, so you just need to add it on. So I've already downloaded it. Yours would be a download. Mine is just, I'm going to open it. Okay. Now, when it comes up with this, you don't want to select any of these. Right? Otherwise, you're going to end up with a project that adds a lot of extra files which you are not going to be working with. So go ahead and close that. And what you want to do is go to File and just a new simple file. So you can use the Apple N if you want, or just click on File, File. Okay. And the file that you want is a C file. So this will create just a C file for you. Okay, give it a name. I'll call it my first C program.c. Okay. You'll see this click of also create a header file. Don't bother with that. So you don't need a header file for these. We'll be looking at those much later in further programming. Click on next. Okay. And put where you want to store it. So where you store it is where you're going to have to find your program when you go to compile it. So I usually like to just put it onto my desktop or wherever you store your files. So I'm just going to store it on my desktop at the moment and create it there. You obviously can create a folder for it. All right, so it brings this up, and this is one of the reasons why I advise against IDEs. You'll notice it's added all this code for you. And it's making an assumption that you're going to use input and output in your code, and you might not, in which case you don't need standard I/O. And you shouldn't be including in files if you are libraries if you're not actually going to use them. So unless you use scanf, printf, which a lot of your code will, but if it doesn't, you need to delete that. Okay. In this case, if we are hash include standard I/O, and I guess one of the problems is that if you get familiar with using Xcode as your editor, then you can sometimes forget to include that standard IO.h because you're not used to having to do it. Okay, otherwise your programming is the same. Okay. So I'm going to make this really simple. Okay. And I'm going to save my file. Okay, again, the Apple S will work as a shortcut, or you can go to File, Save. All right, now I want to compile my code. I don't want to be doing that inside of Xcode for several reasons. One of the reasons is because, again, then you don't learn how to use the compile command, and you might need that or will need that when you go into the lab and you're not going to have Xcode. And likewise, if you are using CS50, you're not going to have Xcode. So the expectation in the course is that you will come out understanding how to use the command line to compile. So if you go to Applications in your Finder and you go down to Utilities, you will find the terminal. If you launch the terminal, I'm just going to start a new one because I've got an old one there. It's got some garbage in it. Okay, so this is my terminal window, and this looks just like CS50 now. A little bit of difference in appearance, but as far as what's there, it's the same. Effectively, CS50 is this. So you want to think of it that way. CS50 is this. Here's your window of files. Here's your editor, and here's your terminal window. And that's effectively what CS50 is doing for you. In here, you've got a Unix-based terminal window, which is like what CS50 is doing. CS50 is using Ubuntu. This is using another version of Unix. So if we actually want to compile this, the first thing we need to do is to be in the directory where our file is. We said our file was in the desktop. If I want to look at my directories, the command is ls, which is list. And I can see all my directories there, and there's my desktop directory. If I wanted to change to my desktop directory, then the command is cd for change directory. And that says change to my desktop directory. I'm now in that desktop directory where I stored this file, so I can now compile it. And it compiles, and then I can run it just like I always did with the ./a.out. So you can see this looks just like the CS50. And it prints out the hello. I probably want to put the / in to make that a little bit nicer. Again, I can save it, and I can just come back here and compile it again. Control P was going back to the previous commands. So once you set up, change this one into the directory where you saving your files, and then everything runs just as if we were in CS50, but this will work even if your network is down. You'll still be able to use this, which is obviously useful. Okay, that's pretty much it. If you do want to go back to your top level directory, just a simple CD will take you back to the place where you start. And again, I can list it, and you can see I'm there again. So you can change into whatever directory you store your files in by just typing the CD. And I can look there, and if I wanted to go into another directory, say like web submission, I could do CD web submission and so on. So you could keep changing. And if you ever want to get back to the start, just CD, and that'll take you back to the start. Okay, so if you do have any questions, please post them up on the Piazza board. Otherwise, have a go with this, and it will give you a good starting point.